Hey everybody, it's Ben. So I'm still working my way through Smuggler's Bible, and it's kind of boring. So since I hit this roadblock, and I have to appease the YouTube algorithm, let's make an embarrassing video of books I got partially way through and didn't finish. Now, a few caveats. I'm not putting in stuff like collections, like a curated collection of excerpts from Pliny the Elder studies, or like books that I started but got 60 pages into, but it's a 700-page book, like Demons by Dostoevsky. It's like, why even bother putting that in a book I read the first few pages of? And mind you, this is over a course of like 4 or 5 years. This is not like a 1 year, like just picking up books. Yeah. But so, some of these books, I swear I'm not a bad reader. Like there was a year in 2018 where I read all of Umberto Eco and like read like, I put a picture up, 800-page books. Like I reread Gravity's Rainbow, finished Ulysses for the first time, read Dahlgren, read Don Quixote, Underworld, and so like a year like that, I picked up more big books, and I was like, I'm just done, bro. So just kind of stuff that kind of went by the wayside. But books I will include are stuff like, also that Robert Musil Underneath the Rhinox there. That's not included. I just got that, and it's my new nightmare. But Portrait of a Man Known as Illkhan, I don't care. By George, I don't care. But this book I got like 30 pages in. I was in a real big reading rut. I couldn't focus. I got this book. I was at my mom's house, just watching her house all alone, and then I could not focus on it. I was hoping it would be a good example of modernism, and then I just started watching Lucy, Daughter of the Devil, and I marathoned it, and here we are with this book in the pile. So it just wasn't catching my interest, and I wasn't doing a deep enough reading on it. Next is Charles Stross, Exerando. I remember my friend put this on Facebook like many years back before I got into serious reading. And I read the first. It's divided in 4 parts. I read the first part and I really loved it. It was when I was trying to get more into sci-fi reading Delaney. I think I started it this year or last year, but I just never got back to it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's an amazing book. It's a really strong piece of sci-fi, but it's just something I just haven't gone back to. Next is La Tramante. I'm saying that wrong, I don't speak French. Or Maladoran Poems. It's an important surrealist book. You can see I got to like one page 170 on it out of like 200 or so. I was reading a lot of surrealism at the time, but honestly, this one just wasn't catching me like other books. Like stuff like George Perez, Death to Pigs. Benjamin Perez, sorry, or even Nadia, which is okay, or poems by John Ashbery and whatnot. And this one, I know this is important to surrealism, and I know when he wrote it was 18 and he died shortly afterwards, but it was just not catching me. It felt like he was a good writer, but he was flexing his literary muscles without doing much. It just sounded like he was just making the best sentences that he could with really no context what's going on. And yeah, that's kind of the definition of surrealism, but like it wasn't like, you can tell like the writing came before the surrealist elements in a sense, if that makes any sense. Read Death to Pigs, so that's amazing. Next, speaking of Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment. Oh my god, I don't have a bookmark in this book, so you're gonna see more reasons why some books stop also. So I don't have the bookmark to this book. I got like 100 pages in or so. I enjoyed it. I love Dostoevsky. I really want to go back and just like finish all the books I have, like Demons, The Idiot. There's another one, Poor Folks. I read the Brothers Karamazov like when I first got into reading it. It was a so enjoyable book, but difficult because it was long and it was in classical style. I've read so many more difficult books since then, and I was able to slightly speed read this. I'm not a speed reader by any means, but like just read this a little faster than normal because his prose isn't that complicated. It's not like McElroy or Pynchon or Joyce or anything like that, or even like in stuff like in Yule's Band. So Dostoevsky is somebody I really love, and I'm just gonna finish off his books all eventually, but not today. Next is George Bataille's Eroticism, Death and Sensuality, some philosophy. This book, I read this last year or this year? I think it was this year, and it was such an important work for me. I loved it. It just really taught me so much about sexuality and the human experience of sexuality and how it it plays an integral role to every facet of our being, and just the different ways it's actuated and made stuff like the Torture Garden or Marquis de Sade just makes so much more sense. Or even his own Story of the Eye. Beautiful work. But the part I got stopped on, because it is a difficult work too, and it took me a while to read and understand, but the part I got stopped on was he started commenting on a psychologist essay, and I didn't read the essay yet, or the study, so I wanted to read that in context before I went back to this book, but more books came up and I just never got around to it. But I am going to finish this. This is such an important work for me. You should definitely read it. Oh, here's a book from this year. The Journal and His Labyrinth by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Marquez is a beautiful author. I've read 100 Years of Solitude and Love in the Time of Cholera. I feel like I read another one. Mad because I didn't. And like sorry if you're a cover person, sorry about this. I got decently in, like 1/3 of the way in. Nothing wrong with this book. I just finished Love in the Time of Cholera this year. I got like halfway through it, was not really digging it, finished it, and like, I kind of get what he's getting at, but that book definitely comes from an older generation. And this book was really good, but all of Marquez for me, it's just a very slow read. He's just such a dense and packed author, which I love, and this book is really great, but it just, other things got in the way for this reading. I do want to come back to this. It's a beautiful, really written work. This is a cool one. Enma the Immortal. So this is a Japanese book that reads like a manga, which is really cool. So I was wondering how you can get that manga vibe into literature, and so far this was a decent example. It's about a person who has a tattoo that makes him immortal, and he's trying to find like a Japanese Jack the Ripper character within the book as well. Oh god, this doesn't have a bookmark. It's a good book. I enjoyed it, but like, it's so far removed from my studies, there wasn't any imperative for me to get back to it, and I enjoyed it. There's other things I wanted to read that had to do more with like postmodernism or surrealism or stuff like that. I will finish this eventually. I feel like there must be like a manga based off of a movie or something. It got adapted in those later, but I didn't want to also check that out until I finished the book. So now I'm just in this perpetual mode of like, is this a manga? But I'm never gonna Google it until I finish this book because I'm stupid. But just didn't have anything lighting a fire under my ass to read it. Oh, here's a good two that I don't give a shit about. Chuck Palahniuk, Haunted, and Invisible Monsters. The reason I stopped these books because Chuck Palahniuk sucks. I read Damned. I liked that one decently. It was kind of sloppy. There was another one I read that I can't bother to be remembered. But like, I just got bored. I mean, it had a cool thing, but like the backwards chapters I didn't read. I was gonna read at the end, and I'm like in the middle of the book, which means I'm at the end. I know people like this one. It's the remix, but like Palahniuk is cool for like 1 or 2 books, and then Haunted. I was trying to find some of the most disgusting literature out there. The first story was really disgusting, and I enjoyed it. It really just grossed me out, which is something I really don't get at all from literature. But then every story after that, I don't even remember, and it felt so try-hard. One cool thing about this book... Oh, the light's on over there. Well, it glows in the dark. So, if the most interesting thing I can say is that it glows in the dark, I don't care about finishing them. Oh, here's the one with a good reason. Heidegger's Time and Being. Excellent book. Beautiful. Just so many great ideas in this book. Just such a great way to actuate the human consciousness and how we perceive our reality with Dasein, the being of the being of the being. And just told me one of my favorite quotes by St. Augustine, like, what is closer to myself than myself? For I become a land of trouble and inordinate sweats. And I love this book, but it's hard as balls. I think I spent like 2 hours on 10 pages one time, or 20 pages. It is such a difficult book. I was reading it with no reference. I was doing a decent job, but some parts would just get floored. I just get flummoxed. I'm 100 pages in. It's a 400-page book. I will finish this one day, but I'm not a big philosophy guy, unfortunately, and I gravitate to the hardest stuff out there. So it goes into the to-read pile. Excuse me. This one is from this year. Flannery O'Connell's Wise Blood. I think it's this one. Did I finish this book? I don't know, but it doesn't have a bookmark. I'll find the page. Problem with this book is that it's not bad. It's the first novel. It kind of reads like a first novel, not in the sense that anything's wrong with it, but it just kind of like, okay, like it's Bobby Hill, okay, and it's just about like it's kind of like a Southern Gothic, kind of like in the vein of Faulkner, which doesn't help after I read The Sound of Thunder by Faulkner this year, and then later on I picked up this one, and it's like, oh, this is Faulkner without the modernism, or the huge character development, and into the pile. Here's another Dostoevsky. Poor Folk. No, I was reading House of the Dead. It wasn't as crazy as I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be just a huge, just like, oh my god, Siberian prisons are brutal, and they are. But he spent a lot of the time in the hospital, and not to shit on Dostoevsky or anything, but like it wasn't like some crazy, like I'm just getting beaten down every day. Of course, I wouldn't want to be at a hospital with a bunch of sores all over my ass and fleas and everything. But man, this is like sounds like a few years ago, a little bit after the Birds of Karamazov, and I don't know why I didn't finish it. I'll finish it one day. I'm gonna have a big Dostoevsky marathon like in a year or two. Mark my words. Oh, here's a good one. Actually, it's not. David Sedaris Calypso. Why didn't I finish it? Because I realized I don't give a shit about David Sedaris. I get what he's getting at. I get where he can, where people can find him interesting. I did not care. It felt like a book you buy for an airplane or something. I think goes with another one, Franz Leibowitz, too. I didn't finish that one. And I didn't care. Why? Because it read like a blog. And I'm a dude. I'd rather watch anime or manga. Well, actually, I watch anime. I might read the manga. Or, I'd rather play some dumb mobile game on my phone. I don't give a crap about blog-style writings. I don't care about his quirky style of writing. I don't care if I ever finish this book. Yeah. It's probably should be in the pile. Cool. So, next we have the Deca Cameron. You can see I kind of made some progress in it. The issue with this book is that I do really want to finish it one day. I think it's such a cool concept. I love frame narratives. I love stuff like 1001 Arabian Nights, or even like Mason and Dixon by Pynchon. And I love frame narratives that just go all over the place. Or 120 Days of Sodom. But like, I don't study Italian literature. Like, I love Italo Calvino, but like, and Umberto Eco, but like, they're so far removed by centuries. Maybe I could see Umberto Eco talking about this time period and everything, but like, other than like using hashtag COVID or something in a YouTube video, hashtag plague for a plague read, there was really no imperative for me to finish this book, especially when those long-ass books that really piqued my interest, like Laura Warholic. And also, I think when I got this book along with 120 Days of Sodom. So, I think when I was trying to pick it up again, it was hours after, like, I decimated some big-ass book, so I just kind of ran out of steam. This is getting dangerous. It's getting real dangerous. Good thing I have all this fire next to me. The final one is Juliet by the Marquis de Sade. I love Sade. He's amazing. You can see I used Rat Trap to place my book at 367, and it goes to like just under 1,200. Okay, but you have to give me credit. This was owned by Professor Ex Labris. I don't know what that means. Dana M. Rivas. He got to page 200. I saw his bookmark there. And I passed a college professor who had a doctorate degree, so you gotta give me some credit. But the thing that kind of kicked my ass on this book was that, because I read 120 Days, I've read Juliet. God, there's another one I read, I think, too. Maybe I didn't. No, I didn't. So, but like, I've read his like two main works, and I really wanted to get this one because I really appreciate his style and like, what he's getting at, and just the level of transgression. It just completely lines up with George Bataille. Actually, no, it doesn't exactly line up with George Bataille, because George Bataille doesn't approach it from a level of class violence like Sade does. I'm going to do a whole video on Sade. But the problem with Sade is that he's one of those authors that if you read one of his books, you kind of read all of his books, unfortunately. is sort of a one-trick pony, and I don't think it's so much because that's all he has in him. I think it's just more because that's all he cared about. So just so much of his scenery takes place in a wealthy person's mansion, raping a bunch of chambermaids and stuff like that. So, which is cool, but like, you get tired of it. It's not really that cool. It's only cool because of the content of the book that's so far removed from our society. Anyway, the last book is one I started this year, John Barth's Chimera. I love Barth. Another book's going to talk about in a second. I read the part with the 1001 Arabian Nights, one of my favorite books, and the book taking place from the perspective of the main character's sister. I don't know how to say these damn names. And it was such a cool thing. I love how Barth inputted himself in there. I love that 60s beatnik stuff where they start talking about the university she went to and everything. And it was so cool how he played with that story. It's just so metatextual, and I loved it. And he does that for other myths in there. But I wanted to read the other myths and really understand them before I got into the stories, just so I can have that level of appreciation like I did for the first one. But I got sidetracked by Short Rumbling, and that was gay erotica. And I'm not gay, but I love that book. And yeah, that's my excuse. Well, now, going from Barth, we're going to do something a little special. Books I consider complete, but aren't complete. So, Kyle's Goat Boy. Finished it last year, early this year. Love this book. Amazing. Just has such a cool style. I kind of want to do a review on this. Just a cool style. It's like just under 800 pages. It just really plays with language and like plot and everything. But the problem is, at the end of it, we started talking about reels. And oh, cool, it's just all a reel the whole time. Got it. It's kind of like the Bible. That's what it was getting at. And then I found out the first 30 pages, the letters by the editors and the forwards, weren't letters by the editors and the forward. It was all part of the book. I'm like, God damn it, I skipped that. So eventually, I do want to go back and read the first 30 pages of it just so I could say I fully completed it. I don't think it's really gonna change my understanding of the book. It's not gonna do anything to like be like, oh, now I see the book in this new context, because I kind of picked that up from the ending already. But it's just more of a completionist thing. But again, there's not that huge imperative for me to go back and read the first 30 pages. Now, this is gonna be House of Leaves by Mark Danilevsky. Beautiful book, one of my favorites, so good. I love it, but I didn't read the last 200 pages. And actually, look at the book chemist, the Johnny, oh god, what was his name? But the Johnny character, he actually didn't read those passages because he thought it was absurd and just read the horror story. But I had this theory, like, from Jose Saramago's book, The Cave, where don't judge a book until you read the last sentence, because the last sentence of that book really wasn't digging it, and then when I read the last sentence, I was like, oh, that's so cool. But this book kind of changed my mind on it, so the next book, and they're like, you don't have to read the whole book to know if you like it or not. And this book, even though I didn't read the last 200 pages, even though it just kind of filler stuff, and doesn't necessarily have to do with the main plot of the story, like, I don't care about reading all those poems about pelicans, but like, I know I love this book, I know I'd recommend it, and I'm probably going to do a reread of it soon. But you don't have to read every single section of it to really enjoy it. And I think that's a real big beauty to this book. Now, another book that does the same thing, but that's dog shit, is Infinite Jest. I'm sorry, I don't like this book. I read it that one year in 2018. I read the whole book, but the part that remains kind of unfinished is all these dumbass footnotes at the end. And I get like, oh, you go back and forth like tennis. But let's be honest, most of the footnotes don't matter. They really don't matter. A lot of them just. Eventually, at one point, I was just getting tired of the footnotes and having these long dissertations that got away from it. But you feel like, oh, pension does the same thing. But I just didn't like it. This book was boring shit. And I eventually stopped reading the footnotes in the book. I just said, like, I don't care. They're not doing anything to make me appreciate the book more. They're only taking more joy away from the book. And then I was thinking about this book, which I love, but didn't finish it. So I just read the rest of the book without the footnotes. And then at the end, I read all the big footnotes that I missed. And I just kind of scoured the small footnotes, and there was nothing. So this is a book, even though I guess I technically haven't read every single word in the book, I consider complete, and I'm never going back to. those are all. Oh, there is one more. I almost forgot. I can't find my copy anywhere. But The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. I do want to finish it. That's a book I realized I lost my bookmark for, and I'm like, oh, so I have to scout. I think I did find my old place where I was at before, but now I lost the book, so I'll have to find it in my place again. Nothing necessarily wrong. It's a book about boredom, and I got bored reading a book about boredom. But like I also kind of went into it wrong because I was reading like about all this like the description I read about it made it sound like a World War One version of Gravity's Rainbow with all the occult symbolism and stuff like that. But it really wasn't that, which is fine. I read a wrong summary about that. I don't know where I got that summary from, but that was after the year I read all of like 800-page books. I was just like tired after that, so I just couldn't finish it, and I just had to read some smaller books after that. But I will get back to that. Probably didn't also finish it like Rob Bolano says in Savage Detectives. I'm a desperate reader. But yeah, those are the books I started but haven't finished. I will finish a lot of them some of these days. Some of them I don't give a shit about, like Palahniuk and David Sedaris. It's just not my cup of tea. It's just not my wheelhouse. But I will get back to them. I will finish them, especially Juliet. I really want to finish Juliet. The top ones would be Juliet, Time and Being, I guess The Labyrinth, all these Dostoevsky. Oh, this one, the sci-fi one, Exerando, the Decameron. Yeah, those are the main books that I would pretty much want to finish. I might even try to sneak in Juliet this year, but I have to read J.R. and the rest of McElroy, and I'm already reading stuff with Smuggler's Bible. So, R.I.P. me.